What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to Fearless Woman CEO, Fearless Woman MMA CEO, Libby Canela, and a combat sports athlete that will make her way to the Fearless MMA cage to contend for the 135-pound title. She is none other than Joselin. Ladies, how are you?
Awesome. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
I'm good. Thank you.
The pleasure's all mine. I mean, we've all kind of collectively been friends for, a couple of years, right? But I mean, I think this is the first time that we've all been able to talk together, and then also to talk about Fearless Women MMA. Like, I've been a huge proponent in women's combat sports, whether that be MMA, jiu-jitsu, bare knuckle, because in many respects, the women in combat sports, even after, Layla Ali in boxing, even after, Tiffany Van Soos or Ronda Rousey and notable names that have graced women's combat sports, still in 2020, women's MMA could at times be in same respects of men's MMA 20 years ago, right? But the absolute truth is, you put a female fight on the card, and last night's UFC card and Bellator card had a few, and those were, I mean, pretty much bar none, the fights of the night, at least in my opinion.
All of them. In both organizations, you're totally right. I watched both, and I feel like the women's fights took the cake the whole night. And I hadn't seen not just women's fighting at that level, but just fighting that beautifully and strategically, tactically in a long time in professional sports. It beautiful, yeah, man. The women took the cake, and that's not biased as a female. Maybe a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Libby, what did you think?
Well, this is why I started, creating Fearless Woman MMA, just because I always was intrigued with my competition. Like, a man wasn't my competition, but I just love that women are now in the platform. They're getting the respect, they're getting the acknowledgement, that we're actually real athletes, and we're badasses, And so I was really blown away. Like, yesterday, I loved watching Karate Hottie and Angela Hill. They were just two amazing women fighting their heart out. So it was like interesting to watch and to enjoy.
Interesting to say the least.
No, it's actually really fun, because I did kind of like a catalog in my head, right? So essentially, in the last, well, now it's 48 hours, but like from Friday to Saturday, right? We had fights win. We had an all-female submission-only tournament submission on the shore, right? We had LFA. We had bare knuckle fighting. We had two Bellators and one UFC, all of which had female fights. And like, I mean, my mind is blown. This is an incredible momentum that you guys have done, respectively and collectively, taking in to Fearless Women MMA's number 6, right? Diana Mendoza, Devo, on yesterday, and she was super excited to get to number 2. So, I mean, all of these things are momentum that you guys are taking into Mexico City.
Say that one more time. Your last, it was kind of hard just because there's an airplane flying by me.
No worries. So basically, all of the female, like, out of literally 6 combat sports event in the last, from Friday to Saturday, right? There was 6 of them, and all of them had female fights. That's amazing.
Yeah. So a few of the submission by the shore, I knew a few people that were competing in there. So they're young, and they're like gonna be schooling a lot of people.
Shout out to Firefox and Predator Pettigrew.
Shout out to Zoe. Oh, that's my girl. But yeah, so I mean, women are basically getting acknowledged, and that's one thing that my goal was to bring out from many years when we both started like Fearless and even fighting, it's just you always get criticized, like it's not ladylike, it's a man's sport. And so I mean, I'm very excited to have Diana in the card. I'm very excited to have Joselin. I'm very excited to even have Cecilia Nova on the card. These American fighters that are just going to be fighting, going to Mexico, basically to show the world that, you know, like showing different talent all over the world, something that the Mexican fighters are so excited and they're waiting to meet everyone. So it's very interesting, and I'm so excited to just even see how everyone interacts, just because we're all going to be learning from one another.
Yeah, actually, to add to what Libby's saying in terms of female combat, to piggyback off of what Bocha was saying, it's something you said earlier really struck me, is like women have been in combat sports, whether we're looking at boxing, traditional martial arts, and now MMA, for a long time. A long time. Every now and then you'll see me share on my social media pictures of women in like the early 1900s doing catch wrestling or boxing or even bare knuckle. We've been around fighting for a long time and doing it as women, you know, not trying to do it as women trying to be like men. So it's crazy that in the year 2020, when combat sports have been around at different levels for centuries, in the year 2020, it's crazy that women fighting is notable still. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. But, you know, of course, it feels nice to get this added attention and whatnot. But the truth of the matter is, why is there so much added attention? Is it the simple fact of our gender, the way that our gender is perceived by men and women themselves? Is it what is it about women in combat sports that's so noteworthy if it's not new? But somehow everything about it feels like a novelty. It just seems like we're constantly having to remind people that the human body is limitless, regardless of your proportion of testosterone or estrogen that you're born with, regardless of what sex you're born with and your hormonal balance. The human body, period, is limitless. And you know, it's not a robot or a battery that has like a certain percentage and it'll perform at that. The human body transcends all kinds of conditions all the time. And I think a lot of that, a lot of my understanding or belief in that, at least, comes from my spiritual beliefs that teach me that the soul is genderless. So my body has a gender and sex. My body has biological abilities and limitations, but the soul does not have a gender. The soul is eternal. And so what my soul wants is very similar to what somebody else's soul wants, and there's that connection. So fighting, to me, is like really, to quote John Jones, sorry, but fighting is a really intimate thing. And it's something that's very difficult to do in front of other people. I think when you're fighting, you're most exposed. When you're fighting, you're the most naked without being naked that you can be. You're showing people your bravery to the max, as well as your fears. People can see when you back down. People can see when you're afraid. People can see when you're unstoppable, you know? And the thing about fighting, too, is that it's very reflective of the type of life that you live outside of a cage. So for me personally, fighting is where I can be all the things that I am, for better or worse. I've learned a lot about myself and the way that I approach life, both in strength and in weakness. It's through fighting that I've really understood that a lot about myself, and that's really the aim of the martial arts. The aim of the martial arts as a lifestyle, not just as a hobby, is to really understand yourself and empty yourself. And through emptying yourself, you become everything. So yeah, that's kind of like, so anyway, yeah, women in martial arts.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Everything that I agree to what you're saying.
I think it's perfect. I mean, I literally, somebody must have been cutting onions behind me because like I teared up a little bit, you know. And I mean, speaking of awesome things, the Brockfather himself, Manolo Elharican Manny
Hey, Manolo.
Hernandez says
Manolo's my
Libby is an
homie. We
amazing.
go.
Proud to call her my friend, and shout out to Manny because obviously Liz Carmouche, the gorilla, essentially made a successful and
Yeah.
impressive debut for Bellator MMA. So shout out to Manny and the camp, Antoine Hood of Flawless Victory MMA, and High Desert Python
Antoine.
says Libby and Jaws are
Yeah.
awesome. Love them both. Love you too, bro. And they said, "Hey, I see you, Antoine Hood." See, it's just a convergence of just friendly
It's
stuff.
a network.
You know, yeah, absolutely. You
It's
know,
a
and
family.
I think it's so poignant what you were saying about finding yourself, right? Because especially with all of the turmoil and everything that's going in the world right now, I mean, at any point in history, but I mean, specifically here in 2020, it's kind of like a weird one, right? But us that are involved in combat sports in terms of finding ourselves, the one true truth teller, whether you do grappling, whether you strike, whether you whatever, you get on those mats. It doesn't matter who you were trained by or who you think you were trained by, what belt you got from another school, all this stuff, what you think you're capable of. Get on those mats. Those are the ultimate truth teller. Those are the truth serum, the polygraph test, whatever. They're gonna know. They're gonna let you know, and the people around you know what you're capable of. If somebody kind of takes their elbow in a particular submission, well, chances are I'm not gonna hang out with them because they might. I mean, if they're doing this to me when nobody's around, what will they do in front of people or crowds and what have you? So, I mean, that's what I love about combat sports, and I think, Josh, you pretty much encompassed it beautifully. That it's about finding yourself, right? And all of us, right? Regardless of whether it be the refs, the interviewer guys, or whatever, we're all finding our way in the sport, you know, and each of us have something different to contribute, right? And this is essentially a renaissance, right? Because you know the people who do the video production, they have their idea of what this concept of MMA is. The coaches, they have their concept of what it is. The fighters themselves, the refs, everybody, right? And I think it's pretty apropos that I mean, most fights take place on a canvas, right? So all of you guys are essentially writing your masterpieces right in front of us on your canvas. So a mixed martial artist or any type of martial artist is no different than a Picasso or Van Gogh or anything like that because the medium is the same. It's just the I guess the transcription is different.
Word. Word to that. And you know what? On that, man, I'm sorry, man. You're gonna get me on a roll with all the philosophies, but to that same example of how everyone has their idea of how to execute or display the thing about the same thing. That's one of the other things that the world needs today is that convergence, that coherence in ideas. It's not that we should all have the same point of view to rally around the same idea. If anything, acknowledge that if there's like an item sitting in the middle of a table and people are sitting around the table, we are going to see different angles of that same item to the point where we might even think that that item is a different thing depending on where we're sitting, right? So if as a society we can just learn to put the angles together and be like, oh, we're looking at the same thing, like that would resolve so many of society's like deep ills, not just like issues or problems or hot button topics, like ills, sicknesses that we have as a society could really be healed through that. And that's actually something that mixed martial arts versus like sticking to just one discipline, the mixed martial arts and learning how the technique from judo might contradict the implementation of a same takedown technique for catch wrestling, we'll say. The catch wrestlers and judokas are constantly like kind of backbiting about each other, like that's BS or that's BS. And really it's like, well, it worked when this person did it, or it worked when that judoka did it. So why does it have to be so black and white that one is right, one is wrong? You know what I mean? Where it's like, wait, not so much what's right and what's wrong. How are they both right and when? And so the learning the different martial arts disciplines and just being blessed to have been led to training centers and martial arts schools that have very like spiritually wise people has allowed me to gather these ideas which are in line with my Baha'i beliefs. That's my religion, the Baha'i faith. They're really in line with my Baha'i beliefs about how to view the world and how to want to contribute to its betterment. So studying all these different disciplines and learning how to put them together when they seemingly contradict, like it's really helped solidify my identity as a world citizen. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's the truth.
I don't think it's cheesy at all. I think it's I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I mean, again, this concept of combat sports and mixed martial arts and whatever you want to call it, it's different for everyone, and that's one of the more gratifying things about doing this podcast is kind of figuring out, like, you can ask the same question to everybody that competes and have competed and get like 80, 100 different answers, and it's just like it definitely means different things to different people. And especially, I mean, you've got people that, I mean, they love old school like GSP and Dan the B7 or whatever, and then there are people that just like, oh, this is something like I blew my knees out or whatever. I can't play football anymore, so I'm going to do this. Never watch any, mixed martial arts event at all, and they just kind of take to it like a fish in the water. There's many examples of what our sport has to offer. We attract the best people because, again, like that scenario about that dirty grappler in your class or what have you. It's like you kind of figure out what people are about once you kind of sweat and bleed. So I love it, Which I gotta ask Libby, like, obviously, you have done shows both in the area as well as Mexico, right? So, Fearless 6, right? This is a pretty like impressive undertaking having, and we've seen with UWC, done two events in Tijuana, and then I mean, there's been a couple boxing events, right? So, strategically speaking, like, was this easier or harder to kind of put on rather than the previous 5 events because of this kind of COVID situation for Fearless 6?
That's a good question. I really don't think about what's easy, what's not, just because when you're throwing events, everything's chaos. So I'm so used to chaos, even if there's no like public trying to buy tickets or anything like that. It's just getting each fighter the information, getting each fighter everything that we need for the commission. Arranging airplane, airfare, everything, hotel rooms. Everything is chaos, but it's a good question. I feel like this one's much easier, just because we had such a long break from the chaos that we're okay with the chaos. So it's like you forget. I think when you're doing shows back to back like UFC, and how like a lot of promotions do that are that have grown over the years, it becomes more chaotic because you're constantly getting hit by wave after wave. So I feel like this one, the waves settled down, and now we're getting bigger waves, and I'm just glad to be back in the business, and showing the world these amazing athletes that don't get credited, don't get acknowledged. I'm so excited. That's why I'm like, I just want it to happen now. I want everyone to see what they've been training, especially during COVID. A lot of them didn't stop training, and that's something that most people will be like, oh, okay, it's COVID. They'll take advantage of that. But I had to stop training. I know how it felt like to be like, what am I doing? You felt something was missing. But then I had to be, okay, let me train my mind to be more getting the Fearless card ready. So when I had to stop my martial arts, I could just do my business and train that way. So then that way I'm not just stuck in what do I need to do. There's a lot of things that my master Roy Harris has been teaching us um, about stance, about the art of stance, and everything from a fighter determines your stance. And that's one thing that I tell a lot of fighters. They're like, well, what do I need to do? I'm just training. I'm like, learn things that you have not mastered. Learn about your stance. Get that strong. Get that, because it's something that we miss. We miss those little holes. But I mean, I just enjoy the chaos. Everything's always going to be crazy when you're throwing events.
Well, one of the many things, I mean, again, there were so many things that I love about not just the concept of the event of Fearless Women MMA, but I mean, the fight kits. Oh my gosh! Like the fight kits are bar none. I don't think Reebok or whatever the new sponsorship brand for the UFC could touch the Fearless Women fight kits. I mean, the tops, the hats, the jackets. I mean, like I gotta have one. Like I'm gonna shoot some DMs because I have to have this. They're works of
Adam, you
art
could totally
because
rock one of them
oftentimes you
sports
gotta
bras, yo.
hear. See,
Yeah, this is
oftentimes you
I,
gotta
I
see.
know it's rated PG, but Fearless Woman
Yeah.
MMA.
See, there you
Woo!
go, there you
So
go. Right, but
everything's
oftentimes
customized for a
with
fighter.
fighter, whether it be fight shirts and whatever, like sometimes it can be gaudy. Like a lot of fighters won't put too much attention to detail. Like I always think, hey, if you're not just supporting the fighter, but like, would this shirt be something that I rock to like at the gym or out doing errands or whatever? And if it's just like, sponsor all in the back and everything, then there's nothing wrong with that. You get paid, but like the design, like you're essentially selling yourself, right? So when you've got like just like a random clip art of like Tiger, right? And that's your deal, like it doesn't necessarily work for me, right? But this is something that has obviously you spent so much time and effort as Josh basically modeled for us, right? So was that the intent that I mean to have a first class considered promotion, you had to treat your athletes first class, and that is the institution of the fight year.
Yeah. So when we first started Fearless, I wanted always to have a uniform, and only the fighters will get to wear the uniform. A lot of people, like a lot of fans, they want to reach out and buy that uniform, but it's only for the fighters. And so, of course, I'll make you a personalized one. Harvey's gonna have one soon, but everything takes a lot of thought, and just from like the new logo that was created. I always wanted a different look for women, just because I am part tomboy, so it's like I love being girly, but I also love being like getting dirty and like punching people in the face.
That's
So
still girly, Libby. Libby, that's still girly.
it's just
There's nowhere else I feel more of a woman than when I'm punching and getting punched.
yeah.
That's not no boy nothing.
But just like the sports bra that Joselin had, that's gonna be, that's gonna be the look of the next. I'm hoping when California opens, that's gonna be the next look for our U.S. event. But I will have merchandise out there for some fans. But my main goal is to always dress up and appreciate my fighters for even supporting our league, to show them that everything is for a reason. I want them to feel proud. I don't want them to just think, oh, I'm just fighting for a fight. I want them to be part of something. Their participation and involvement is so much bigger than what they think, because so many little girls are going to be inspired by them, and going to be wanting to be like them. That's something that, yes, like Joss is one of them, and so many little girls that are gonna be like, oh my god, I look like her, I could do that too. That's one thing that I envision for Fearless to be, is to be that platform that shows women from a little girl that they're champions and they could do anything.
I actually, sorry, Adam, I don't know if you're about to say something, but I just have to add to what Libby's saying. I'm really proud to, there's many fighting events that as amateurs, we fight for anyone that'll let us, really. And as we up our skill and as more, just as the competition gets tougher and we get tougher, we do get to start picking and choosing what organizations we fight for. As through our journey to become pro or to become champions, amateurs have different goals. I'm so honored to have ever had anything to do with Fearless Woman MMA, because like Libby said, it's not just a fighting event, it's a mission. Libby has a mission statement. She explained it to me, and she pretty much explained that the fighters are actually like collaborators in the process of Fearless Woman MMA growing, of exposing female fighters. And actually at the amateur level, something like this, to my knowledge, doesn't exist. So one of the things that I've struggled with a lot as a fighter in amateur events is, we're not like fighters in the women's division, they're girl fights. And it's just it's really demeaning, it's really insulting, it's patronizing when you've been training for years and you've been in a camp for weeks or months, I don't know. And you're a freaking warrior, dude. You're an animal. You're in this state that you don't get to be in every day. And then you hear, and now the girls fight. And I'm just like, who are they talking about? Oh, they're talking about me? Girl fights? Like, growing up, I hear girl fights. I don't think of technique. I don't think of ferocity. In fact, girl fights in the society we live in is seen as something kind of pathetic, something less than. So there's two options. You can be offended, you can be insulted and voice your discontent with it, or you can own it. But it's hard when you're grown as hell and you don't refer to yourself as a girl or your teammates in the gym as girls. You're like my teammates, the women I train with. You're a damn grown-ass adult who's been through all kinds of spiritual and physical and financial battles. So your fighting is kind of like the culmination of that for a night. And yeah, it is hard to be referred to as girl fights in this like sort of sexually tantalizing way for the gentlemen that are in the crowd when you're not going up there to be a sex symbol. So you're hardly going up there to display anything for anyone. You're just trying to compete. You're trying to rise the ranks or whatever people are in there to do. So with that said, at an amateur level, Fearless Woman MMA really solidifies and what's the word I'm looking for? Fearless Woman MMA really is just like solidifies the status of female athletes in the mixed martial arts at the amateur level. It really displays not only the skill set that's out there, the grit that's out there, the different styles that exist, and the fact that it's an international organization. Everything Fearless Woman MMA is what these professional leagues are. I don't know anything like it at the amateur level. And the beauty of it is that it's still kind of nascent. It's still like in its early stages. I know we've had 6 events already. Thank the Lord, and thank the Lord for my friends that I've been able to be a part of one of the events a year ago. And I just can't wait to see what it becomes. But again, the thing about Fearless is that I don't get to just see what it becomes. I'm a part of it. What it becomes is my responsibility too. I don't know anything like this in the combat sports, period. So I don't even know if Libby knows what she has in her hands right now. Like, maybe she knows. Sometimes she sounds like she knows exactly what it is. And sometimes she's so modest. And I'm just like, stop being so damn modest, dude. You gotta speak it as it is. Like, This is the real deal.
Thank you.
I
I feel
absolutely love
like
it. I
sometimes,
man, I cannot wait for Fearless Six. You know, but Jeffrey Johnson out of Oklahoma, he is basically saying hello, everyone. And I mean,
What's
you
up?
talked about um, motivation a little bit earlier, Lib, and I definitely want to get both of your guys' take on it because Stephen Tatum asked, "Hello, ladies. I came into the podcast late. Sorry, but question for you both: what made you motivated or inspire you to get into the sport?" Now, I know Libby, you have been literally a renaissance woman as it comes to everything mixed martial arts. You've kind of done it all. But what was it that kind of pulled you both into the crazy world at times of combat sports?
well, with me, I had a crazy background. It's something that kind of what Diana talked about. It saved her. It's kind of something spiritual. Um, and Jocelyn even said it. You start learning about yourself. You start learning about the art and discipline. With me, I felt like at a time where I was at, I was picking fights with my coaches, um, and I didn't care to die. I didn't care. They were like, "Oh, this person's bigger than you. Okay, well, send her over. I would love to smack her." That's the kind of attitude that when you don't have anything to really, when your life is just dead inside, and you finally start to tap into the disciplines of the ancient arts. You start to be one with your breath, with your body, with your mind, with your soul. Um, and you start to understand that the fight business is not always just a fight. It's who you are. It's who we all are. We're fighting every day to even just like survive. So that's my motivation. It became where I finally was the calm in the storm. I knew what I needed to live for, and I knew that I had a mission. And even though it took me to different opportunities, to learning how to be an inspector, to from ring girl, from coaching, to just even being a fight promoter, to do all that stuff. It's something that evolves, and that's where my motivation was always. People would always tell me it's not ladylike to be a fighter. It's not, you're too beautiful to get your face hit. And so I wanted to just be me, and I wanted to let little girls that are walking in the same shoes to know it's okay to want to learn how to fight, how to do self defense, how to tackle someone, how to really like spar with someone, and how to really know your body while you're moving with another body. Um, that's some art that most people don't really know, and they're really scared to be one with themselves. When I was listening to her yesterday, she was saying that she learned to become herself. And in jujitsu and martial arts, you're rolling with someone else, you're sparring with someone else, you're competing with someone else. You know your body, and you start to learn their body. But that was my motivation, is just how to it's I knew there was something much bigger than just fighting. It was just something needed to be created, and out of my own my own inner self, Fearless was birth. And I feel like I'm like the mother now. So
I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. So beautiful. Negative into a positive for absolutely sure. And Josh, what was your motivation?
Yeah. Sorry. I just well, I've always been a fan of combat sports in general. So I have a total of 6 brothers and sisters. However, I was raised in my household. I was the oldest of 3, 2 younger brothers, a single mother, as many people experience. A lot of us are raised by a single parent, particularly single mothers. So my point is that we didn't really have that like male presence in our lives. And as children, it seems that as children, it doesn't impact us as much. You don't see the result of that until you. So for my brothers, I had to like basically outboy the boys. So I would like kind of punk them. I would play fight with them. And that wasn't like me trying to take on the role of a male figure or anything of that. It's just I guess there wasn't a man around to rough out the edges of my natural aggressive tendencies. And I won't even say aggressive, just, athletic and physical tendencies. I'm just a very physical person. I'm even very physically affectionate. I've just always been a very physical person in a affectionate, physical work household. So with that said, that's kind of where my understanding of uh, athletics and combat not being a boyish thing. I was born a girl and I was naturally athletic and physical. So I guess because there wasn't a man around to kind of call me like his princess and his girly girl and things like that, maybe that's why it was so easy for me to be so boyish and rough with my brothers. As I got a little older and came into my body, I did start experiencing what many women experience of being ogled, being catcalled, and even being physically assaulted and at some point molested. Again, this isn't anything to pity over. It happens to damn near everybody. So things like that did kind of turn on this need for me to not do it for fun anymore. In my family, we were never able to afford, martial arts and karate and stuff like that. It is kind of expensive to get into karate, kung fu, taekwondo, the things that we wanted to really do, and boxing. So we would just the movies was enough for us. Mortal Kombat, um, yeah, Mortal Kombat, Kickboxer, you name it. All of them, even the kids ones, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are forever my favorite Power Rangers, and Kimberly was useless. Why was she a Power Ranger? Anyway.
Yellow Ranger forever.
Trini, but rest in peace, Trini. Rest in peace. But with that said, it's just as a child, I've always been into it. The oldest of two boys, I would roughhouse with the boys. And as I got older and started becoming a young lady, it wasn't for fun anymore. It wasn't a hobby. It wasn't a thing that I just liked. I wanted to actually become Goku. I had died and got hurt so many times, and I just kept coming back, stronger, kinder, wiser. And I just, whether it was through actual fights and getting jumped, because that's just the kind of neighborhood I lived in, or fighting with my brothers, or just trying to gain a handle on my anger issues as a teenager, I just knew that I could only overcome it through physical struggle. So it's not until I was 27 that I could afford to train myself the way I knew I deserved. But I wrestled in high school. I took self-defense, karate, and kickboxing classes at a very basic level in college. And in 2010, I got into Filipino martial arts. And so that's where I started competing in stick fighting and knife fighting. So the stick fighting was the eskrima, and the knife fighting was the kali. And I learned a little bit of arnis with that, some empty hand and dumag as well. So, shout out to all the Pinoys out there. Salamat po. And to Coach Sunny Castillo Rubio, for taking me into the integrated warrior arts. Salamat po. My life is forever yours, sir, to learn the system. And then, in 2017, I meet up with Roger Contreras. We form Team Ray Dog, and Coach Roger founded Back to Basics Combat Academy, which is now defunct, but it's the same concept that the training center is wherever you are. And so, I've just been blessed to be led to not just instructors that physically taught me the art, but they saw me. They really saw who I am and what I'm about. And they didn't just see somebody who wanted to defend themselves, somebody that simply wanted to get fit. They saw somebody who was trying to understand life through their body. They just knew that somehow. they've never vocalized that to me the way that I'm putting it. But the way that they taught me and the way that they've led me lets me know that they see me. And I've just been very fortunate to, again, not on my own accord choose, really seemingly by chance, which isn't a real thing. But seemingly by chance, I've been led to these gentlemen who have handed down their knowledge to me. And at the end of the day, it's up to me to implement it successfully. So my record doesn't show it, but I'm a fucking warrior. Sorry, F word. Anyway, yeah, so my inspiration comes just from life as a whole, and it increases as I go. It's not one thing. It's so many things. And whatever inspired me as a kid is totally different from what inspires and motivates me now to become a warrior and a protector of my community.
I think that's amazing. Now, for those who want to find out not just about you two individually, but also about Fearless Women MMA 6, in terms of, I understand there's going to be a stream. So where can they get information on such things?
So we're going to be posting, I think next week. I have to just pick a day on the times of broadcasting, and also the weigh-ins, give all that information to all of the fighters. So that'll be coming next week.
So you don't have all the streaming info yet?
I don't have all the streaming info. We just have everything ready. It's just the different times. I have to calculate exactly what time it's going to be over there. Right now, I don't know on top of my head. So I don't want to really say it's going to be 7 o'clock over there. I don't know what time it'll be here.
Hey, yo, what Libby's trying to say is follow, add, subscribe. Fearless Woman MMA.
Thank you. You said it.
Just keep it posted. Just follow Libby Canela, follow Fearless Woman MMA, and definitely subscribe to, follow, and add Adam Woods, because he's got all the 411.
Yes, I'm going to actually give you the information, Adam, so people could start following you and asking you, because, yeah. Thank you, Joselin, because sometimes I forget to really just tell people to follow us.
Listen, all of my social media, I believe it'll be futile because you both essentially have larger followings than a little me. But whatever I can do to help Fearless Women 6 be the amazing event that it's going to be, you have my word. That's absolutely true. Adam's man, I don't believe you, but if you're going to say it, why not? I'll take it. I'll take it. But it has been an amazing time. Thank you guys for setting some time out to speak with us here at According to Woods. And any parting words for everyone of the Fearless Women MMA Nation?
Just kick ass. Continue kicking ass and believe in yourself. Don't let anyone tell you you're not good. It's just they're haters. You're always going to have haters. You're always going to tell people you don't belong in a gym. You don't belong in this card, whatever. Just tell them I know what I'm doing. To say the stars are aligning.
And always thank those who are on the other side of that too. Always remain grateful. And something I've been repeating the last week, modesty and humility are not the same thing. Modesty is a symptom, right? Modesty is a symptom of your insecurities. Humility, now that's a virtue. So Libby, Adam, don't be modest, y'all. Adam, you are the man. Libby, you're an effing boss. Don't be modest. Just be humble.
Salute to all of you guys. Thank you.
For Joselin and Libby Canela, this is According to Woods, and we are out. And like these